In the heart of North Korea, a dynasty shrouded in secrecy held onto power with an iron grip. Kim Jong-il, the dear leader, ruled with an iron fist, his every whim law. Born into a world of privilege and paranoia, Kim Jong-un's early life was a closely guarded secret. The exact date of his birth remains a subject of debate among outsiders. Some accounts place his birth in 1982, while others suggest 1983 or even 1984. What little we know about his early years is gleaned from North Korean state media and defectors. Within the confines of the Kim family's estates, young Kim Jong-un lived a life of secluded luxury. He is said to have had a fascination with basketball, reportedly possessing a collection of Air Jordan sneakers. His love for the sport extended beyond mere fandom. He reportedly displayed a natural talent on the court. Kim Jong-un's destiny was predetermined, groomed from a young age to inherit the mantle of leadership. As Kim Jong-un grew older, his education became a carefully orchestrated affair. Whispers from defectors suggest that he was educated partly in Switzerland, a land starkly different from North Korea. Attending an international school under an assumed identity, he was exposed to Western culture. Upon his return to North Korea, Kim Jong-un's education took a more rigid turn. He enrolled in military academies, immersing himself in the doctrines of his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. The Juche ideology, a blend of self-reliance, nationalism and loyalty to the Kim family, was drilled into him. As he matured, Kim Jong-un began to accompany his father on official visits, observing the inner workings of the regime. These experiences cemented his belief in the necessity of maintaining control at all costs. Even as a young man, whispers of Kim Jong-un's ruthlessness began to circulate. There were rumors of a temper that could flare with frightening intensity. Some accounts suggest that he orchestrated the purging of officials who displeased him. As Kim Jong-il's health deteriorated, the process of transferring power to his chosen successor accelerated. Kim Jong-un was appointed to key positions within the Workers' Party of Korea and the military. He was given the title of Brilliant Comrade, and state propaganda began to portray him as a military genius. The stage was set for Kim Jong-un's ascension, and the world watched with apprehension. December 17th, 2011. The news reverberated around the world. Kim Jong-il was dead. In the wake of his death, a wave of carefully orchestrated grief swept over North Korea. Kim Jong-un, barely out of his 20s, was officially declared the great successor. Kim Jong-un moved swiftly to consolidate his grip on power. He assumed the titles of Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army and Chairman of the Workers' Party of Korea. He surrounded himself with loyalists, many of them older officials who had served under his father. He also began to cultivate a public image, drawing heavily on the legacy of his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. He adopted his grandfather's hairstyle and mannerisms, presenting himself as a worthy heir to the Kim dynasty. With his position seemingly secure, Kim Jong-un set about eliminating any potential threats to his rule. His uncle Jang Song-taek, once considered a powerful figure in the regime, became an early target. Jang was accused of corruption, treason, and a litany of other crimes. His public downfall was swift and brutal. He was stripped of his positions, publicly humiliated in a staged show trial, and executed. The purge extended beyond Jang, ensnaring other high-ranking officials and military officers. These purges, carried out with ruthless efficiency, sent shockwaves through North Korea. Kim Jong-un's willingness to eliminate even his closest relatives demonstrated his unwavering grip on power. As Kim Jong-un tightened his grip on power, a climate of fear and paranoia descended upon North Korea. Public executions, once relatively rare under his father's rule, became more commonplace. Those accused of even minor offences were summarily executed, often by firing squad. Enforced disappearances also became increasingly common. Individuals suspected of disloyalty vanished without a trace. The North Korean Gulag, a vast network of prison camps, expanded under Kim Jong-un's rule. These camps held an estimated 80,000 to 120,000 political prisoners subjected to torture, starvation, and forced labor. The international community watched with growing alarm as Kim Jong Un consolidated his power. Human rights organizations documented the atrocities taking place in North Korea. The United Nations condemned North Korea's human rights record, calling for an end to the executions and torture. Sanctions were imposed and diplomatic pressure mounted, but Kim Jong Un remained defiant. He accelerated North Korea's nuclear weapons program, conducting a series of missile tests. These tests heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula and raised fears of a regional conflict. Kim Jong-un's actions seemed designed to send a message. He would not be cowed by international pressure. The world held its breath, bracing for what this unpredictable leader might do next. Kim Jong-un's reign was characterized by an unsettling silence from the Hermit Kingdom. Defectors provided glimpses into a world of unimaginable cruelty. Human rights organizations meticulously documented these testimonies, pointing to crimes against humanity. Forced labor camps, likened to modern-day gulags, held thousands of prisoners captive. Starvation was a constant companion, their meager rations barely enough to sustain life. Torture, both physical and psychological, was commonplace. The lucky ones perished from exhaustion or disease, their stories silenced forever. The case of Otto Warmbier, a young American student, pierced the veil of secrecy surrounding Kim Jong-un's North Korea. Warmbier, a 21-year-old University of Virginia student, had traveled to North Korea on a tourist visa. In a moment of youthful indiscretion, he was accused of attempting to steal a propaganda poster. Warmbier was arrested, subjected to a sham trial, and sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. He disappeared into the North Korean prison system, his fate unknown to the outside world. In June 2017, Warmbier was returned to the United States in a coma. He died just days later, his brain severely damaged, the circumstances surrounding his condition shrouded in mystery. Warmbier's tragic fate became a stark reminder of the brutality of Kim Jong-un's regime. Beyond the prison walls, a pervasive climate of fear permeated every aspect of life in North Korea. A vast network of informants, their identities shrouded in secrecy, permeated every level of society. Neighbors spied on neighbors, colleagues on colleagues, even family members on one another. A careless word, a critical comment, even a perceived lack of enthusiasm for the regime's propaganda could have dire consequences. The omnipresent threat of being reported hung over every conversation. Public displays of loyalty to the regime were mandatory. Participation in rallies and marches was not optional, refusal seen as an act of defiance. Section 4. The price of dissent, disappearances, torture, and the plight of political prisoners. For those who dared to challenge the regime, the consequences were swift and brutal. Disappearances, often in the dead of night, were commonplace, the victims snatched from their homes, their workplaces, or even off the street, their fates unknown. Some were never seen or heard from again, their families left to grapple with the agonizing uncertainty of their loved ones' fate. Others resurfaced in the notorious Kwan-Lee-So, the political prison camps where the regime sent its perceived enemies to be broken. These camps, hidden from the prying eyes of the outside world, were places of unimaginable cruelty. Torture was rampant, a tool used not just to extract confessions, but to inflict pain and humiliation, to crush the human spirit. Prisoners endured beatings, electric shocks, waterboarding, and sleep deprivation, their bodies pushed to the brink of collapse. Starvation was a constant companion, their meager rations barely enough to sustain life. Forced labor, often in dangerous conditions, consumed their days, their bodies treated as expendable commodities. The psychological toll was just as devastating. Prisoners were subjected to relentless indoctrination, forced to memorize the pronouncements of the Kim dynasty and confess their supposed crimes against the state. The lucky ones, if they could be called that, perished from exhaustion, disease, or the brutality of the guards, their bodies disposed of in unmarked graves. The unlucky ones clung to life, their bodies broken, their spirits crushed, living testaments to the inhumanity of Kim Jong Un's regime. Section 1. The Cult of Personality, crafting the image of an unwavering leader. Kim Jong Un's grip on power extended far beyond brute force. It was intricately woven into North Korean society through a carefully cultivated cult of personality. State propaganda crafted an image of Kim Jong Un as the infallible heir to the Kim dynasty, deserving of unwavering loyalty. His image, often in military garb or traditional attire, became omnipresent across the country. Every aspect of his life was meticulously stage-managed and disseminated through state-controlled media. He was portrayed as a benevolent father figure deeply concerned for his people, yet possessing an iron will. Stories of his brilliance, compassion, and even supernatural abilities circulated widely. Public appearances were carefully choreographed spectacles designed to elicit awe and adoration. He was often seen surrounded by adoring crowds, his every word met with thunderous applause. Children were taught to sing his praises in school, workers were expected to attend mandatory rallies extolling his virtues, and even the most mundane aspects of daily life were infused with reminders of his greatness. This relentless propaganda barrage created an atmosphere of unquestioning obedience and stifled any potential seeds of dissent. Section 2. Mastering the media, controlling the narrative, and shaping reality. In Kim Jong Un's North Korea, information was a tightly controlled commodity, its flow meticulously regulated by the state. The regime understood that controlling the narrative meant controlling the minds of the people, and it went to extraordinary lengths to ensure that only its version of reality reached the eyes and ears of its citizens. State-controlled media, from newspapers and radio to television and the internet, served as mouthpieces for the regime, their content carefully vetted to reflect the party line. News broadcasts were filled with glowing reports of Kim Jong Un's wise leadership, the country's supposed economic achievements, and the ever-present threat posed by its enemies. International news was heavily censored, filtered through the lens of the regime's propaganda, portraying the outside world as a dangerous and decadent place, hostile to North Korea and its people. Access to outside information was tightly restricted. Radios and televisions were pre-tuned to government stations, and possession of unauthorized devices could result in severe punishment. The Internet, a potential gateway to the outside world, remained largely out of reach for ordinary citizens, accessible only to a select few within the regime's inner circle. This information vacuum, coupled with the relentless barrage of state propaganda, created a distorted reality, one in which Kim Jong Un's regime was the sole source of truth, its pronouncements accepted as gospel. Education in Kim Jong Un's North Korea was not about fostering critical thinking or encouraging individual expression. It was a tool of indoctrination, designed to mold young minds in the image of the regime. From the moment children entered school, they were immersed in a world saturated with the ideology of the Kim dynasty. Portraits of Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Jong-un adorned every classroom, their watchful gazes following students throughout the day. Lessons were infused with propaganda, extolling the virtues of the Kim family, glorifying the country's supposed achievements, and demonizing its enemies. History was rewritten, facts twisted to fit the regime's narrative, and any mention of the country's darker chapters, from the horrors of the Korean War to the atrocities committed within its own borders, was strictly forbidden. Music, art, and literature were all carefully curated to reflect the party line, their content sanitized of any hint of dissent or individuality. Children were taught to sing patriotic songs praising the Kim dynasty, to paint idyllic scenes of North Korean life, and to write poems extolling the virtues of loyalty, obedience, and self-sacrifice. Extracurricular activities, from sports to youth groups, were all extensions of this indoctrination process, designed to instill the regime's ideology and foster a sense of unwavering loyalty to the state. Through a potent combination of propaganda, isolation, and ruthless suppression of dissent, Kim Jong Un's regime managed to construct a carefully curated illusion of paradise, a distorted reality in which North Korea stood as a beacon of stability and prosperity in a world consumed by chaos. State media painted a rosy picture of life inside the hermit kingdom, showcasing bustling cities, bountiful harvests, and a people united in their love for their leader. The harsh realities of everyday life, the chronic food shortages, the crippling poverty, the pervasive fear, were hidden from view, airbrushed out of existence. The regime's control over information was so complete, its grip on the narrative so tight, that many North Koreans remained oblivious to the true extent of their country's isolation and the suffering endured by their fellow citizens. Those who dared to question the official narrative, to peek behind the curtain of propaganda, did so at their peril. The regime's vast security apparatus, with its network of informants and its arsenal of repressive measures, ensured that dissent was swiftly and brutally silenced. In Kim Jong Un's North Korea, ignorance was bliss, a carefully cultivated state of mind that allowed the regime to maintain its grip on power and perpetuate its reign of fear. Kim Jong Un's rule, a mere blip on the grand timeline of human history, has nonetheless left an indelible mark on North Korea, etching itself into the very soul of the nation. He inherited a country shrouded in secrecy, isolated from the world, its people held captive by a suffocating cult of personality. Under his watch, the machinery of repression, meticulously honed over generations, has continued to grind crushing dissent, stifling individuality, and perpetuating a cycle of fear and obedience. The stories of those who have escaped the hermit kingdom, the defectors who risked their lives to break free from the chains of tyranny, paint a chilling picture of life under Kim Jong Un's reign. They speak of a world where hunger is a constant companion, where fear is a way of life, and where even the faintest whisper of dissent can have deadly consequences. Yet, amidst the darkness, glimmers of hope persist. The human spirit, even when subjected to the most unimaginable cruelty, has an uncanny ability to endure. Inside North Korea, hidden from the prying eyes of the regime, acts of resistance, small and seemingly insignificant, continue to take place. The sharing of forbidden information, the whispering of doubts about the regime's propaganda, the yearning for a better life. These acts of defiance, though often unseen and unheard, represent a flicker of hope in a land shrouded in darkness. Kim Jong Un's North Korea, however, is not merely a domestic tragedy. It is a global threat. His relentless pursuit of nuclear weapons, his provocative missile tests, and his bellicose rhetoric have destabilized the Korean peninsula and raised the specter of a conflict that could have catastrophic consequences. The world has watched with growing alarm as Kim Jong Un, seemingly undeterred by international condemnation and sanctions, has doubled down on his nuclear ambitions, transforming North Korea into a rogue state, a pariah nation holding the world hostage with its arsenal of weapons of mass destruction. The risks of miscalculation, of an unintended escalation that could spiral out of control, are all too real. The stakes are incredibly high, with millions of lives hanging in the balance. The international community, long divided on how to deal with the North Korean conundrum, has struggled to find a cohesive strategy to contain Kim Jong Un's nuclear ambitions. Sanctions, though crippling to the North Korean economy, have failed to deter the regime's pursuit of nuclear weapons. Diplomacy, though offering glimmers of hope, has been fraught with setbacks and broken promises. The world is left to grapple with the unsettling reality that a young, unpredictable dictator, driven by paranoia and a messianic belief in his own destiny, holds the fate of millions in his hands. The future of North Korea remains shrouded in uncertainty. The Kim dynasty faces challenges that could shake its grip on power. Internally, the country grapples with a failing economy and chronic food shortages. Information flow is increasingly difficult to contain in the digital age, Whispers of dissent, fueled by foreign media, are seeping into isolated corners. International pressure continues to mount. Sanctions are eroding the regime's ability to fund its military ambitions. The possibility of a popular uprising cannot be entirely discounted. Seeds of discontent are beginning to sprout. A change in leadership could create an opening for reform. The path to a free and democratic North Korea is not inconceivable. The yearning for freedom is a powerful force. The world hopes that one day the people of North Korea will break free from tyranny and build a brighter future.